So, I've said that I've reached out to this organization before, some time ago. And I was given this little packet, and inside of it was all these contents here. And each thing is of its own nature. So these are odes and songs for these nights. I've got a brief history here. A symposium. We have an initiation form, a general guide, the story. Okay, so this is a program pamphlet, if you will. And then we have this guy here. Very interesting. Origin, objects, principles of this group here. Now, this is the Grand Lodge of Michigan. It's where I live. And I just out of curiosity, right? Because I'm like, okay, so this is something that I want to explore. And what's the main thing that they talk about? Brotherhood. They talk about... It's a fraternity, man. It's what it really is. And it says that it has its origins Pythagorean. And it's one of the epochs of this order here, right? I'm not going to go into it too much. I don't know if I'm allowed to. Not like I'm part of it. But anyway... Let's look up that address there. I mean, obviously, this is from 1922. Isn't that funny? 22. There's that number that it keeps following me around. Anyway, South Main Street, 320. And wouldn't you know it, what's there now but an Irish pub and restaurant? Curious, isn't it? Remember I was telling you about this Irish ancestry that I'm trying to find, and here's another connection to it? Well, isn't that interesting? Rather interesting, I think. It's just like, okay. You know, I got these pamphlets and stuff, and I definitely have to go through it. They're not just going to give it to me for no reason. But it was just kind of funny, the little Irish pubs there now. Like that place where I would end up going to go get some Irish whiskey. That's crazy, isn't it? That's what I'm telling you, man. Like, you can look at it and be like, nah, coincidence, doesn't matter, not a big deal. But I don't see it that way, you know? And that 1922 as well. I don't know how much I've talked about it before, but in the past. But my life is surrounded by this number 22. So, for instance, here's another example. This literally happened a couple days ago. My wife picked up a couple books for me. Remember I was telling you about, like, oh, I gotta have this whole governmental part from Aya in my book, and I don't know how to do it. Well, out of nowhere, she brings home a book called Shaw's Outline of Governments. And then we have Lands and People, the Far East. She just picked these up out of nowhere. They were in a free bin at this sale, right? And here's what it was. I opened it. Someone left their sticky note here. And it says Buddy Bear, which I call people Buddy. And then it's clearly a password because it says all leather shoes 22. And it's funny because I only wear leather boots. That's what. And then 22. Oh, there's that damn 22 again. So I guess I'm going to have to look at this book and see what that's about. Yeah, on page 22 it talks about the ancient Delphi order. Whatever. But these weird callings that'll happen, like these weird things that like share this connection, and a lot of it's born around coincidental things like that. Like I told you about that priest who might be, let's pretend that he might be Irish, and it just so happens like, oh, he comes to a small little fucking town called Tecumseh. I don't even know the population, but it's tiny. It's like, people call it the sticks, you know? It's just like a small little city in the middle of the country, in the middle of nowhere, right? He just happens to be there, a Catholic Irish priest. Like, okay, we don't, for reference, there's only white people that live there, and if you have a slight accent, people go like, huh? who are you and why are you here? You know, that's how small town it is. There is no diversity or cultural diversity or any sort of it. So it's like that's why that sticks out more than you would imagine. Like if you live in a big city, you're like, so what? I see fucking people from other countries all the time. Well, not where I come from, you know. You'd be surprised what age I was when I saw the first like black person in my life, you know, like it's just a small town. This is how it is. I don't know much about this stuff. And so the Pythian knighthood, I'm really going to have to look into this. Really, really going to have to look into this. I'm given this information and it's like, I'm not a smart man, you know. I'm like Forrest Gump. I just fumble into shit. Accidental, like. But, fucking hell. You know, there's more to it, because that's what these, like, what's the word? That's what these fraternities always say. It's like, oh, charity, brotherhood, guidance, how to be a good man, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, you know, that's the outward appearance. And I'm not saying that there's sinister shit behind it. I'm just saying, what is it they truly seek? You know what I mean? If you're going to tie yourself into Pythagorean shit, what they're considering the Pythagorean epoch, there's got to be something more going on here than meets the eye. There has to be. Any person wishing to organize a new lodge should communicate with the Grand Keeper of Records and Seal. I think I communicated with one, who will supply the necessary blanks and instructions. The fee for the charter member is $15, which was 100 years ago, so God knows that's gone up $100. In towns of lesser size, there should be at least 25 members to start with. There is no charge for the dispensation, the only expense being the necessary books, blanks, and such supplies costing about $50, and the paraphernalia, which at present price costs $180. Can you imagine what this costs now? $180 in 1922 is not cheap. If the reader is interested in organizing a new lodge, write to the address given on the flyleaf of this booklet. I should. Just like, if there's like, that's the first part of the thing. You might have thought it was an Irish pub, but upstairs. You know? That'd be kind of funny, wouldn't it? If that's how this shit really worked. Man, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. You step out and sometimes you get kind of like, I don't know, it's a little alarming, because you never really know what's going to come from all this stuff, you know. Conor O'Neill, the pub. Pretty sure the O'Neills are a pretty big family in Ireland. 1232 till 1660, the O'Neills were sovereign kings of Tir Eogan, holding territories in north of Ireland and the province of Ulster, particularly around modern County Tyrone, County Londonderry, County Antrim, in what is Northern Ireland. The O'Neills were kings or rulers of all or part of Ireland for about 650 years, and might be the oldest traceable surname in Western Europe. Interesting. Is it a Viking name? No. What is the motto? I can't say that because it's in Irish. It says victory or death. Oh, fucking hell. I can really feel this is the next part of the journey to be taken. And like, in conjunction with the stories, the book, like, there's a part of me that's kind of skeptical, right? There's always that part of you that's just like, I don't know if this is right or not. And it's like, it's hard to constantly listen to that guy. I try not to all the time, the skeptic in me. Because that just keeps me from doing anything. So, and I try to just dive forward, but the more I trust in the natural order of things, the more I trust in shit being what it is. I don't know how to word it. Shit comes to me, like these two books. Like, just a small example. My wife picked these up, thought I would not want anything to do with them. She just thought they might look cool. just one of those people. And so it looks like cool decoration. Well, these are books to be read, but just a small example, like one like that. And I needed this. I needed some sort of guidance here. Just lets me know I'm on the right path, or I'm kind of taking notes here about, because I read it in one of these books. Just one line. It was talking about Greece after World War II, and it said America gave them a bunch of money. And I was like, wait a minute, why would they do that, right? And then, then I didn't really go further with that. I was like, in the book, when this is happening, maybe these people are doing this, and this is why that's going on, and you know what? Aya will uncover it, It did that. It turned something on, and at the very same time as I was looking back at book one, it puts a new perspective in. If you've the one person that's read book one, well, like the beginning of it, it's like, well, what was that all about? Like, now it kind of shifts in my brain that maybe there was something more going on here, something I could take into book two. Boom, there was a gap in book two I just solved with fucking this one book where I read one line in it. It just solved not only a big thing, like a backstory of this sinister group of individuals, but it adds to the story of book two. That's what I mean. You just trust in the world will give you what you want when you're going out there to get it. You're just trying to bring about these things in yourself. You just have to interpret it, and that's what's interesting about all this stuff. Like, I found this book, The Astral World. It's a very small book. It was written maybe over 100 years ago, 1915-ish, around that period, so over 100 years ago nowadays. And it's rather interesting, right? It tells you about the different worlds and stuff, and so what that's already doing is helping me, like, okay, when I get to the astral world inside of my book, how can we transcend into this? How can we explain it and write about this and make it believable? And I didn't really think about the ghost land, is what some ancient peoples would have called this place. Astral just means place among the stars in Greece, in ancient Greek, and that's where the word astral comes from. And so, like, it's just helping me re-see how I really want to word these things. And it was just one fucking book that I happened upon. One little thought as I was reading the first 10 pages, like, what if we should do that, And that's the kind of shit that can happen. You really have to trust in it. And so when I start doing a little bit more reading of these little pamphlets of the Knights of Pythias, this order that I may or may not want to get myself involved with, there might be some nuggets in there, Like, this was laid before me because I have a relative that did this. He was within this order, and I told you about the sword in the last one. There's something there. And as I was in my consciousness writing book two, this sword becomes prevalent. I didn't plan that for book two, that the hero will stumble upon this sword and this will have destiny, and this sword is like, again, I use the example, it is the Excalibur of my book, essentially. Not really, but essentially, think of it that way. And it just so happens that memory triggered, like, oh yeah, my family, we're holding on to that sword for him. I don't know why, but that's what he said to do. And it's just like, okay, interesting. I did a listening of a Hermetic teaching, and as I listened more and more, everything this man was saying just made more and more sense to me. It just, like, it clicked. It's like all the stuff he was talking about was like, I already thought that, I already thought that, I already thought that, I already thought that. I didn't realize you could put it all in one room. It's a order. Holy shit, I never knew this. And what I'm trying to say is, you stumble upon the right things in the right way. And not only that, but you keep focused with what you want and what you define yourself as. Like, I know that I'm a writer. I might not think that I'm the best writer most days, but I know that I am, and that's what I worked for. And I'm writing to solve myself. And through my writing, these entities that are helping me are the same ones that I'm writing into the book. It's like when people talk about Pokemon, and they capture the little creatures in that little ball, whatever it was. I feel like I'm capturing them on page. Like, I'm exploring these beings through my mind. and through my consciousness, and I'm going to these realms, and when I find them, I'm putting them down, and I'm essentially capturing their essence on words. And so through these words are like incantations and stuff, spells, things to evoke. And I don't know what it is, but I'm like, that's just what I'm doing. And everything comes to me on the outside as it would. And I just give it to the Forgotten King in the book for him to kind of fuck with and do with what he needs. And that's just kind of how it's slowly manifesting for me. Like, I'm pretty well like aware that I don't come across as like this highly intellectual, learned person. I don't think I ever will, because I know that's not who I am. That just wasn't my upbringing. I wasn't that guy. I didn't gather those skills. What I like to believe is I've gained the ability to be, in a sense, humbled, and not allow myself to become this, like, yeah, you know, like, everyone should know this. It's pretty simple terms that, you know, concepts of life should be. I try to come across as that guy, because not only do I hate those kind of people, but I understand that there's a confidence to life, but my confidence is much different. It's not something that I'm ever going to make someone feel bad about, you know, or if someone disagrees with me, I'm not going to be a dick about it. Then, all right, man, that's all right. You know, very interesting thoughts, I suppose. So, the biggest thing that I can say along this journey has been this self-discovery would be trusting in everything around me, that it will be given to me in the right way at the right time. And at the same time, yes, it can present things to you, but you might like, oh, I'm scared, and then it's like, well, okay, we're gonna come back later, I guess, or not at all. Depends on what it is. You have to remember to jump on these things, and that's the whole jumping on the Catholicism and the Knights of Pythias. Just gonna jump on that and just see what comes from it. As I trust in that, I trust myself and what I'm trying to do and what I'm set to do. So that's the biggest key to everything. And for the longest time, you know, there was a span of years where, as I was doing this book more and more, I thought like, oh man, we're going into a fantasy world. It's escapism. It's not good. We're not handling reality. We're just trying to get away, and we're just hiding. And I really thought that, and maybe I was doing that for a little bit. But the more I've been writing, and as the years have started piling on, I'm like, I don't think so. I mean, maybe I am going away, I'm escaping, sure. But I'm going so inward that I'm questioning myself on every fucking thing that I do. Or I'm trying to unravel the way I see the world around me in my mind, instead of like sitting there going like, I don't know, I don't know how that works. I'm trying my best with my limited abilities to make sense of the world around me with the way I understand it. And I'm like, that's not that bad. That's not a bad thing to do. Like, I'm trying to figure shit out. And though I might not have the most confidence in it, just because it's hard to find the language, or it's hard to find the terminology, or you know, the way people choose to pursue things. They say like, this is this room and that's that one, and this is, everyone knows this. Like, I just question the door. That's it. Like, I always joke, like, let's say this book here is only about democracy, only. And people are like, we all know this, it's so obvious. I'm always like, I don't know. Like, sure, like, and I'll read it and kind of gather, like, okay, but like, how do you know? Like, you don't know if this might not be what you really think it is. You know, that's all my brain does. It just questions things, and it says, don't just jump in it because everyone else says this is already figured out. Question it. Like, I don't know if you're right. What if you're not? We can't just keep agreeing to the same old fucking things over and over and over and over again and wonder why. Like, oh, we don't know why the world's like it is. Like, we can't keep thinking the same way, you know? You made it like that. I really want to try to delve into this stuff on a deeper level and try to see what we can uncover in terms of all the things that are laid before us. And if we keep to ourselves, because it always answers itself. Every time I work on the book, every time, I have come to a problem, and sometimes it might take a while, but eventually the problem's solved. I will always solve the fucking problem. Or I will always get done that thing I dread, like, oh, this scene, this chapter, this backstory, this lore thing. Like, I don't know, none of this makes sense. I will always solve the problem. So I have to tell myself, trust in who you are and what you're doing. You will get this done. You will do it. You will not falter. And whenever you come to something where you need answers, the Lord provides, man, and He always has. Whether that's the being that is the intermediary between me and God, my own personal spirit guide, whether that's me manifesting to God, whether that's God within me manifesting outwardly, or just God looking down on me and throwing shit at me. I can't say which one of it is precisely. I think it's a culmination of all that, and I trust heavily in his guiding hand, and I always will. And I will never lose faith in Him, and no matter what it is. There may be some faiths that will try to tell you, this is what God should be to you. He should be this is what you need to do, you need to accept that. Other religions might be more ethereal about it, and weird, cultic, and strange. I don't know. Like, what is true with them, I can't say, but I know what God is to me, and He's always guiding me in the right path. And I see it influenced and echoed in other religions outside of me, elements of what God is to me, and I just say, like, He's taught me this shit here. Clearly there's some truths out there. We just got to gather them up and make our own. Whether that's making up our own religion, that would be something I would do. Not what I want to do, but I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if that's what happens. I die, and years later the books become that. I don't know. But I just kind of believe that you lay things out for yourself to solve for yourself. Sometimes you lay things out for people, the right people that might be watching, that help them, through you, gather what they need to know. I mean, I really believe that that's the case. There are certain people, that we can work through. The animus of self and another, I guess, would be that. But at any rate, we should probably get going. And then I shall see you in the next one.